The next session on the Industry Trade Union Dialogue session would be moderated by Mr. Swarup Panda, Executive Vice President, Human Resources, ITC Limited, India Tobacco Division. Our panelists for the session are Mr. C.K. Saji Narayanan, Advocate and National President, Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, Dr. G. Sanjeev Reddy, National President, Indian National Trade Union Congress, and we have with us Dr. Kingshuk Sarkar, Joint Labour Commissioner, Government of West Bengal. I would request Mr. Swarup Panda to please take over from here. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Archana. Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope we have a robust audience too for this session. This I think is a bombshell of a session. We have really fortunate to have a power-packed panel today. It's very rare to have stalwarts of this caliber of trade union leadership in sharing one dais. We have E.K. Saji Narayanan ji, who is the president of the Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh. We have Dr. G. Sanjeev Reddy, who is the president of the INTUC, national president of the INTUC. And we have Dr. Kingshuk Sarkar, who is the additional labor commissioner representing the labor department of Government of West Bengal. Why I say this is I mean, for me, it's really a privilege to be sharing the same. Of course, it's a virtual dais, but I'm sharing the dais with stalwarts which is a rarity for me. I've always looked up to these people as great thinkers of industry relations. Thank you, sir, for taking time off to be in this session. A brief introduction of the panelists. I mean, they don't need an introduction as such, but I'll still take a minute each to talk about the panelists. Mr. C.K. Saji Narayanan is a lawyer by profession. He was the president of the Thrissur Bar Association, Calcutta, Kerala. He is a member of the Second National Commission on Labour, appointed by the ex-Prime Minister Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji. He is, to his credit, 15 law books, including various labour laws, law of family court, marriage and divorce, land reforms, etc. He was the vice chairman of the Indian Labour Conference and Standing Labour Committee 2 times. He's been long associated with Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh and was in charge of ILO and international affairs. He's long associated with the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, related organizations like ABVP, Bharatiya Vichar Kendra Tapasya from his student days. Dr. G. Sanjeev Reddy, he's currently the president of the INTUC. He's a former member of parliament in Rajya Sabha and has been a freedom fighter against the Nizam government and of course been a crusader for the causes of trade union movement in the national and international field. He is the president of INTUC since 1994, and there's a lot of outstanding achievements to his credit. He's a national leader and a part of the Indian labor movement, and he's been conferred the doctorate by Mahatma Gandhi Kashi Vidyapith Varanasi. He is also very popular in the international forum. He has been elected Vice President of International Confederation of Free Trade Unions and continues to represent the labor class in many international trade union fora. Dr. Kingshuk Sarkar is the additional Labour Commissioner, now positioned in Chandanagar. He is a very accomplished practitioner in the field of industrial relations and labor relations. He is one of the finest minds in the Labour Department of Government of West Bengal, and more importantly, the interest that he takes and the time that he spends in disseminating knowledge on IR is to the people in the industry is very noteworthy. Today's topic is a simple one. Everyone since morning we've been hearing from the CEOs, from the CHROs as to what they feel is the current need for employers and unions and employees to do in this current situation. The environment itself is so complex and tangled that any topic that we take up looks very simple. The pandemic has wreaked havoc and is a disaster of the worst order. It will only proliferate further. Apart from inducing panic and uncertainty, it has significantly disrupted the way business works. It is a huge war between life and livelihood. It's an unprecedented crisis that is testing professional and personal relationships. And you can understand what I mean by that. When even a family member passes away today, there's no time to grieve. That is the test of relationship today. And business is going through its worst crisis, leading to job losses, salary cuts, and the like. But amidst all this, as per my experience, biggest test has been on industrial relations and the labor relations, the relations between union and employees and the management and employers. I think the biggest test, this relationship has been put to real test in these trying times. And I would say that they have come up with flying colors. To discuss exactly this, to understand the perspective of these fine minds of from the labor fraternity and people who are so much involved in framing law. Dr. Reddy, Mr. Saji Narayanan, sir, all are involved in framing laws by being part of a lot of tripartite committees in the government, and they lead those committees. So it will be a privilege for all of us. I'll do the less of talking because we have the stalwarts here to speak, and I would urge them to speak their mind, talk about their experiences of the last 4 months, what has been the high points of this time, what have been the low points, and what do we do to do better going forward. I would invite Mr. Saji Narayanan sir first to talk for 10 to 12 minutes. Then I would go to Dr. Reddy, then Dr. Sarkar. And again, we'll have, if we have time for 10 minutes, I have a couple of questions which I'd want to ask. And then if there are other questions from the audience, we'll surely take that. Over to you, Saji Narayanan sir.
Thank you, Mr. Panda. Thank you very much. And respected our veteran trade union leader, Sanjeev Reddy ji, and happy to meet all in a virtual world. Today, I should congratulate the organizers for having a industry trade union dialogue, because that doesn't take place often in the country. This has to go on. This should be the mantra of future industrial relations in the country. Now we have to move from conflict to confluence. That is very important. Now we are passing through a very, very abnormal situation. So naturally, new normals emerges. There is no single new normal. Everybody talks about his own new normal. So what should be the shape of better normal we have to bring? Regarding that, we have to discuss. Now let us look at the emerging scenario. Now we are facing with an unprecedented pandemic, and WHO was very much concerned how to address it, and finally they have come with an interesting solution. They said we have to live with corona. That is the solution. So only a vaccine, that is the only silver line that we see before us. Now, when we look at the position of industry, economy during the pandemic, we have to understand one thing, that the Indian economy was passing through a slowdown even before the pandemic situation. So this pandemic situation has only aggravated that situation. That we have to understand. So we have to see that China has captured our market, and Indian market has virtually become an extension of Chinese market. To that extent, our manufacturing sector has fallen. So how to address the slowdown, that is also very much important while we are talking about this thing. In the country, many people started working on it. We have 3 social partners in the labor sector. It is the industry, then labor, and the government. But these three partners are thinking in different ways, in different directions. The employer is facing with the question of survival of their industry. So they talk about job cut, wage cut, then depending more on government money, etc. These are all central to their thinking. Then workers also think in a different way, trade unions think in a different way, because we are seeing the pathetic condition of labor in the country. We have seen how migrant laborers are treated in the country. During the pandemic time, they were driving on the railway tracks, they were driving on the roads, roadside in overloaded trucks. So that type of an inhuman level of workers living in the country, that also we have seen. So we are very much concerned. Trade unions are mostly concerned about the livelihood of the workers. Now, let us look at the government. Government also is thinking, but in a very, very strange way. They say they are thinking about how to address this situation. And finally, every time they come to the conclusion that the burden is shifted on the shoulders of the labor. So one by one, the rights of the labor has to be withdrawn. That is the only solution for India's economic progress. That is why many 3 states have suspended the whole labor laws. To that extent, it has come up. This is not the problem of one party government or something. Any party coming to government, they're all doing like that. Now let us look at that suspension of labor laws, because that is very important. Because whenever the government says or our experts says about labor laws, they always want to bring workers out of labor law jurisdiction. For example, factories law has been amended, contract like Labor Act has been amended. They want to bring a sizable sector out of the law. So it is like bringing them to under jungle law. There is no law. So wherever trade unions are in supreme position, they will be happy with no labor laws. Wherever employers are in a better position, they will be happy with this thing. So this is the type of things happening in the country. Now, when we look at the point you have mentioned in your note, that is Industry 4.0. It is not a creation from our side. It is outside creation, outside from these ideas come up, Industry 4.0. Many people talk about automation, destructive technology, etc. But it doesn't stop there. It is something beyond that. It is creating a new types of industrial models and industrial relations that we have to be very seriously discussed. For example, the supply chain system. Supply chain system, many people welcome it because it creates employment and other things. But when we went to ILO conference in Geneva, our European counterparts, our European trade union people said, this is the latest form of exploitative system which the capitalist system has created. There, previously the employer will exploit the worker. Now there is a different levels of exploitation. The big multinational giant will exploit the domestic industries, and the industry for survival, they have to exploit the micro industries. Then micro industries have to exploit the worker. So a new supply system of a line of system of exploitation is developing in the whole world, and we have to very seriously think that whether that model should be adopted. A new word we are discussing while talking about Industry 4.0, that is gig economy. What is gig economy? This is very important in the Indian context, because in India, the industries are traditionally, the grandfather will start an industry, the next it will pass on to the next generation, it will pass on to the next generation. That way, a type of continuity is there. Now that continuity will vanish from the face of earth. This is what gig economy means. Every thing in activity in the economy, that will be only temporary. An industry will live only for 3-4 years. Thereafter, immediately they have to change to another industry. So that way, a gig industry, a gig economy, and gig worker, that system is also coming up. We have to think about that. It doesn't mean that we should shore back to all these, those are coming from outside. Whatever good things are coming, we should welcome. But the point which I want to give thrust is India has to decide its own destiny. That is very important. We have to shape our own industrial relations. We have to shape on our own models of industry. Whether we are sincerely doing it, that is why China and other people have captured or this thing we have to discuss. During the Corona period, we have conducted some national-wide strikes. Along with that, we have made some good suggestions to the government. We had made one of the largest service activities on the part of trade union. Indian trade unions have done that. Similarly, on reverse migration, we said incentivize these people to come back. They will definitely come back. We have told them. We are working with the government on that aspect. We said the government should subsidize wage bills where industry, certain sectors are very badly affected. The industry should be subsidized to give their wage bill. Then skill development has to be given more importance. Similarly, there are several such suggestions we have. So in the India-centric roadmap we have to create. Coming to the labor relations, industrial relations. Now we have got a settled notion that it is the leftist or communist model of adversarial system. They think the industry is a class enemy. That era is gone. That is an older story. Don't go with such theories. Now new theory has to come. But we had to think about three models of such industrial relations. One is before 1990s, we had the Russian model of socialist era, where industry versus labor. That was the thing. Strikes were in large numbers that we have seen. On a fine morning, Dr. Manmohan Singh brought the new economic system, that is globalization. There, industry minus labor. That was the theme. Now we have to change into a new paradigm in which industry and labor both should progress together. That is very much required. For that purpose, these type of discussions are required. Now BMS has put forward an idea, that is Udyog Parivar. Now in Delhi we had discussed with CII, ASSOCHAM, FICCI, etc. Regularly we are having Udyog Parivar conferences in Delhi. That is a good thing. The entire of the industry and the workers, they should work like a family. You might be remembering a famous book made in Japan, written by Akira Morito. He was a proponent of this Sony Corporation. He has said the success of Sony Corporation is a family-like atmosphere in the industry. So the worker should be considered as an extended family of the employer. That model we have to come. That should be the fundamental of India's work culture. Work culture includes not only workers' culture. The employer also should have that type of a culture. So in that way, we have to sit together and bring a new normal. We have to create a new normal. Employer and worker, labor, as well as the government has to sit together. They have to work together, and we have to think about how we have to address the slowdown, how to face the industry 4.0, sustainability of industry business, then productivity. That's also important thing. Then skill training. All these issues has to be discussed together. And what should be the direction of labor reform? That also we have to sit together. Then those things, because of paucity of time, I do not want to enter into those details. We will discuss. Such interesting discussion should take place later, and let us learn, unlearn, and relearn many things by such dialogues. With these words, I conclude. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saji Narayanan, sir. That's very, very aptly said. You started off by saying that the need is to move from conflict to confluence, and that we need to have an India-centric view instead of borrowing things from the external world. We need to have an India-centric view because we have our own culture. We have our own psyche, which is so independent and so specific to India, and therefore we need to have a Indian-centric culture, Indian-centric roadmap. You also talked about how there is this crying need to now go hand in hand. The industry and labor should go hand in hand instead of crying horse at each other. Thank you very much for your views. I may come back again at the end with a couple of questions. Now, may I request Dr. Reddy to please put forth his thoughts before the audience. Dr. Reddy, sir.
So good morning to everybody, and especially thank to my Saji Narayanan, my colleague, who has spoken here. Now we are discussing with the experience and the people who are daily dealing with the industrial relations, particularly CII was considered to be a very progressive organization of the employers, and we expect some good understanding between the employer and the trade union and to tackle the industrial relations problem in India. Sir, there must be one thing before talking to big things about the economy, global economy, and also Indian economy, and also the role of the worker. Today, I want to talk to you the role of the employer to building up a economy of the country as well as the industrial relation. See, I asked the employers and association like a progressive employer association of the CII, how far they are able to build up a mutual trust between the workers and the management. Leave the trade union. Trade union, it is keep it some time by the little part away. I'll ask you one question. The nation is consisting of the industry, workers, labor, and people, professional. Everybody is consisting of all consisting together, considered to be a nation. In our nation, what type of industrialization we want to build? What is our ideas? After global economy, we have learned number of new things. How to survival of the industry, how to survival of the business in competition to the international market, and also the standard, everything, efficiency and price, etc. also comparable to the international market. So what I say today, what employers learn out of this internationally with a global economy? How do they want to maintain an industrial relation in the country? Today, exploitation in one word. We want to arrest the exploitation. Exploitation from the political exploitation, economic exploitation, and also there are another number of social activities, everything the exploitation is there. Offer we are able to tackle this word of the exploitation has been controlled and stopped by whether the management as well as to the trade union. After working a long years of service in the trade union, I think in 60 years back, 50, 60 years back, which was I was fighting with the employers before independent, after independent. We are fighting. I was a Minister of Labor in Andhra Pradesh also. And today also I'm international labor, international trade union movement. I'm the vice president, the ITUC. ITUC, you know, that International Trade Union Confederation, which is the biggest organization in the world. I'm vice president there. We are discussing this matter. After globalization, the employer and employees differences has increased a lot. Mutual trust has been reduced more. We are more technical than the human tackling the problem. Humanitization is completely taken away. The category of the employees today, a worker has to be engaged in so many categories. You can once I do not know how far you people have studied. Say today, if you call a worker means start from contract labor, casual labor, temporary labor, and then with a badly labor, and then you will come to the recently the BJP government has amended the Standing Order Act, saying that a fixed time of employment. So many categories of employee and workers has got engaged in the industry, and every category has got its own exploitation. Why so many category of workers? The worker belong to the nation and to the industry, and the industry has to run with the cooperation of the labor and the management. and industry has to exist and survive in the global competition. Today we have seen major industry like steel making big losses. You see the like a BHL, a public sector giant, it is making losses because some of the industries and the private sector, they are able to run little bit showing the profitability. Now the question arises why the public sector are losing, why the private sector making profitability. That also one question always put to us by the government as well as to the public sector employees. We have to answer to this. So I say today, in conclusion, I can say we have lost our mutual trust and confidence more. We are departing from away to away after global economization. After global economization, the trust between the workers and the management has widened. The difference is widened. We are not able to talk about the welfare of the worker, welfare of the industry. The management says they have to compete in the international market, therefore they have to adopt all method, which is a fair or unfair. For existence, they want to adopt all method. I feel it is not a fair thing to deal with our own workers. Workers, not only workers, they are the citizens of this country. And our country has to economically has to develop. Then you have to see that the poverty level, unemployment level, and all this level, you will not attack them and you will not rectify them, then the country economy will not be progress. And we are not going to get industrial peace. Therefore, I say that trust we are losing every day. After working so many years, whatever trust we are able to build between the management and the trade union, that trust today has weakened more. Employer is today, I am dealing number of industries, particularly multinational industries. They have entered into an agreement. They said, the people said, I'm surprised recent experiences. They first of all entered into an agreement that the incentive scheme should be the major portion of the wages. We entered. And today they say that that incentive scheme is not able to payable, but even the worker has achieved a maximum level of productivity, but they want to reduce the income of the worker. How can it is possible? One side productivity increasing, another side the profitability of the industry is increasing, but the standard of workers coming from permanent to the casual to contract labor to the today fixed term of employment. It is an economic improvement of the worker. The industrial peace can only come. I do not blame much government. Government do not know anything. They accept politics and know the power to retain the power. They want to exploit the power. That's all. They are not much interested. They say that they are interested in the industrial development, etc. But I do not see much in politics today. But I say today, in a global economy, how far we are able to go. See, today trade union movement is not same what it was. We used to oppose all modernization. We used to oppose all mechanization. We used to number of things. But today we are all agreeing because my industrialist has to compete with the international market. Therefore, we are agreeing all the reforms in the industry. And we are also most of the things, efficiency, new technology, we say today, we are accepting and welcoming new modernization, new technology in the industry. So even that, it is affecting badly for employment potentiality of the industry. But still, we have made up our mind as a trade unionists say that the new technology has to be accepted so that my industry can able to stand with the international competition. So international competition is one of the factors for the industry as well as to the trade unions. I therefore say today, when in conclusion I say the management has got a responsibility to build up a trade union. I say that according to me, because they are social they are building up a social partner. Social partner has to build, and management should give a helping hand to the trade movement to develop a new technique, new approach, and a scientific way of dealing with the industry relation. But the employer has not accepted this responsibility and not adopting this method. So we have seen day by day, except few individuals, you may take out few individual industries. So if we accept few industries who are able to a scientific way of the dealing with the Indian industrial relation and the labor matter, some of the progressive management who are able to give a cooperation, but percentage in Indian context, percentage maybe 1%, 2%, 3% management are able to deal with this. But generally, today we are seeing that we are today you may see that the permanent worker strength day by day is coming down. Our industry productivity increase, our business increase, profitable increase, permanent worker strength is coming down, and temporary contract worker strength is going up. Why contract labor? Because low wages, low living standard, more workload. These are the basic thing. And second point, I say that principally we want to build up an industrial relation. There must be some basis. So we have got a basis for the first National Labour Commission headed by the Gajendra Gadkarji has given a big report. Second Labour Commission also has given a second report. So all these things is there, but we are not able to accept some of the principles laid down in that report and adopt by the trade union as well as the management. Both are not able to go together. So my submission is that today in a global industry, in a global economy, the management and the trade union should come together to work together. Then only we can save the business as well as industry as well as employment. Otherwise, the worker are losing the job, industry losing the business, and in the competition both are dying together. So therefore, the situation has come. A mutual trust, mutual good relation has to be developed, and confidence, mutual trust has to be developed. That as every day is going down. We are not able to believe the government. We are not able to believe the employer not able to believe the worker. And the more political support employer, one side to sustain their business, they are seeking more political support, more politicalization business, and industrialization also more politicalization, which is not going to good for the industry and good relation. Therefore, I only say that the government of India wants to bring a new labor legislation. Why they want to bring, what purpose they want to bring, only to please the employers. And they say that number of things, they exist supporting the existing industries and also the industrial development, the new labor laws required. Really, it is going to be helpful to the new establishment of a new industries in the country, creating a new employment. I am agreeable to agree to any changes, but we are not seeing that. We are seeing more and more from the permanent worker to the contract workers. Conversion is more. Wage level is also coming down. The percentage of wage level takeout, a industry and a 20%, 30% workers are the permanent, and they are getting a higher wages compared to the lower wages of casual or contract or fixed term of employment. These are the conflicting area. One side, we are not agreeable the labor policy adopting by the government of India. We strongly opposing. Unilaterally, they want to bring a new labor legislation for which we are fighting. No, one thing you can understand today, we are able to form a all central trade union coordination committee. All different type of political trade unions are able to come together. We are sitting one platform. We are discussing as a coordination committee, and we are formulating a one single policy. So our political differences, we are keeping away, and the industrialization has given a much important than the political interest. So we are able to sacrifice something. We are able to working together. Today, INTUC to BMS, HMS, UTUC, INTUC, everybody we are working together and minimizing our differences, political differences. And in industry also, we wanted to work together so that rivalry should be come down and the industrialization can be built up. But you can see that 1947 onwards, today, after becoming a globalization of the market and finances, industry, the industrialization has deteriorated and industrialization has really gone a bad way. And the number of workers of the casual contract labor increased in the industry level, and the government of India taking a stand to everything should be privatized. Private is the only answer to our economic illness. That is the government attitude where we do not agree with them. So, sir, we want that the country should prosper economically. We want employment generation should be there. We want industrial peace should be there. We want our industries to be able to compete with the international market, international, because in that my interest is to protecting my job, my worker job, and see I'm protecting the industry and its profitability. So today the trade unions very clear in their mind. We have given up all the socialist thinking, other thinking. We have kept away. We are today practically approaching a policies which is the development of industry, the guarantee for the employment, and the improvement of economic improvement of the worker is one of the basic points where we are working together. We want today, we are losing our mutual trust, mutual confidence, mutual exchange of views, and more we are depending on the government support to run the industry and industry policies. With this word, I want to submit, whether you agree or not, a different view, but my submission is there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reddy. I mean, it's this forum which CII has created, and which has become one of the most sought after dialogue forums in the Eastern region, where trade union top leaders of the country are called to air their views, and the objective here being is for us in the sitting on the employer side to register the thoughts of stalwarts like you, and not join issues or counter your points, but to take that as face value, take it as a nudge, and try to better things, which will be in the interest of industrial peace and harmony. While Mr. Saji Narayanan talked about very prescient matters at a macro level, Dr. Reddy spoke quite a few, made quite a few hard-hitting points at a micro level, and the biggest thing that he spoke about was the lack of trust between employer and employee. I mean, that I think is a huge concern for all of us in the industry, be it the unions or the employer. I think if Dr. Reddy says that after 60 years of being in this profession, I think we'll have to respect the reasons for which he would be saying that. Let's do a soul searching. Let's try to understand things more in the perspective, and try to better things. Thank you, sir, for your profound views. Next speaker in line is Dr. Kingshuk Sarkar. He's the Additional Commissioner of Labour representing Government of West Bengal and the Labour Department. Like I said at the outset, he's a fine thinker of labour law. He takes a lot of interest in disseminating knowledge on IR to the industry. So may I call upon Dr. Sarkar to air his views about the experiences that he feels that he would want to share basis what has happened in the last 4-5 months. As also, if you could also throw some light on the changes that are going to come, because we say life has to move on. So there's a lot of changes on the labor law front that are going to come. We heard yesterday the cabinet passed the OSH draft. So things would continue to change, and therefore in this situation that we are all in, are we all equipped? Are we all ready to take those changes also along? Your views, Dr. Sarkar.
At the outset, I thank my Labour Department for giving me this opportunity to represent our department in this very important conclave, and I also thank CII for organizing this. And I am also privileged to be part of such a panel, and I also see my honorable MIC Labour and Dolashin Madam who are there, I can see. So regards to all sirs and madams. So I understand that we are running short of time, and I will be brief and will be by 10 minutes I will finish. So many things already have been covered. I was listening to the speakers since the morning, and even my co-panelists, they have covered many issues. So I will highlight or flag certain issues which may not have been covered so far. Like this pandemic has created certain crises. It's a crisis itself, and it's created a lot of I think problems for the working class as a whole, and over the working class in particular, and in population in general. But certain changes in the world of work that were happening for the last 25 or 30 years actually by somehow got accentuated in the process, like disintegration of the production structure. This is happening for the last 30-40 years. The production structure itself is changing. It is getting decentralized. More and more production is happening at some places, not in the factories but at the domestic space also. So we also have uh, witnessed how workers also, they have also got scattered over from factory to different places. So in the process, the employer-employee relationship somehow got uh, become the casualty. The problem is that there is a systematic dismantling of employer-employee relation over the last 30 years. Since, at least in India, since 1991, we started our liberalization process. From since that point, the employer-employee relation, there is so many kind of categories between employer and employee. So even if you work for your workers do not know for whom they are actually working. And also this pandemic also made us realize so many migrant workers are working amongst us. We did not notice, the middle class did not notice that these workers are working this crisis somehow made them very visible in the public domain, that these workers are working, but these workers are working for long, because this is called circular migration. People in search of job move from one place to another place, from then to another place. That is basically because a structural problem, in the sense that the labor force that got released from the agriculture could not be absorbed in the manufacturing and service sector. Our service sector is still very vibrant, in the sense that 51% of our national income comes from service sector, only 50% from the agriculture, and rest 25 from the manufacturing. The problem lies with the manufacturing, is that manufacturing could not absorb the labor that was released from the agriculture. So we have a huge reserve army of labor force which came into the urban centers but could not find adequate livelihood opportunities. That created a huge lot of problem. And also informalization. People say the Indian labor market is rigid. So that is what the dominant narrative in the public domain. And there is this call for labor reforms, like relaxation of labor laws. Even during this pandemic, also few states also got rid of a whole lot of labor laws. But if you look at our records, in spite of few protective labor laws that are in place, particularly those layoff retrenchment, closer kind of provisions in the Industrial Dispute Act, in spite of that, we have steady informalization of labor force over the last 30 years. 93% of our labor force in the informal sector. That shows that there is inherent flexibility in the labor force, in the labor market. The problem is not labor flexibility. The problem is that we could not provide many basic things to our workers, like universal social security. Like suppose in our case, that whatever happens, the pandemic will someday will go. We hope that pandemic will go soon. But certain issues which but new codes are coming, like wage code has already been passed. The OSH, the working condition code, is also got the ratification in the parliament. The new two other codes, like social security and industrial relations, very important two codes are coming. But certain things in those new codes is also going to affect us, particularly in the kind of new normal that has been created by the pandemic, like universalization of social security. We witnessed the kind of calamities faced by the migrant workers. So social security becomes very important. The new proposed draft social security code actually was to some extent broadened the concept, broadened the definition of workers. But when it comes to actually giving them social security protection, yeah, it could not, I mean, it did not give that kind of protection. Like even now, the EPF, ESIC, maternity benefit are only for the organized sector workers. So this 93% are informal sector workers. They don't have the kind of even minimum kind of social security, which is actually very clearly manifested by the present time. And also the minimum wage. Suppose minimum wage has become so much important now. Within the minimum wage, there is the non-food component. Within the non-food component is a function of the food component. Non-food component has become important in its own role. Like we can see now the sanitizers, masks, and other things become so much important. So that not only food but non-food items should be important in their own role. Also, occupational health and safety should be made universal, which has not been made. It is a collage of 30 labor laws, but all the labor laws, there is a employee threshold. The problem is that the employee threshold level, there is a problem like it doesn't become all workers do not have access to it. Also, there is problem with regards to the sole negotiation agent. I don't have enough time. The sole negotiation agent of 75%. If a union has 75% of membership, then it becomes sole negotiation agent. In that case, small unions will find it very difficult to grow in a dynamic concept. So I think from the trade union point of view, in the new normal situation that we are facing, there should be they should have a strategy how to mobilize workers, because now workers will be in a scattered kind of working environment. They were even before the pandemic, and also most of the workers are in the informal sector. So you need to find that unions are already doing, but I think the next 50 years, I think the focus should be on informal sectors rather than the organized sector, because even organized sectors are becoming informal sectors. And from the employer's point of view, I think they should not treat labor only as an input in the production function, not as an raw material in the production function. Laborers are human beings, so employers should treat labor as human beings. That's the basic thing. And also, laborers are not only laborers; they're also consumers. So the kind of a situation where the goods and services are not being sold. They are being sold because the fallacy lies is that who is going to buy if you even don't give minimum wages, if you don't give the basic minimum social security, who is going to buy your product? That's the way because these workers, what they get at wages and salaries, they can spend on the goods and services, but that is not happening. And also there is a need to reskilling. There is a good proposal in the which code that there is a risk fund to get retrenched, so they can get reskilled in the process. And from the government side, I think there is need to strengthen social dialogue and tripartite consultation. So far, even this this is a long-term, long-run tradition that any new labor matter is discussed in a social dialogue forum and elaborate tripartite consultation. But I think over the years that's diluted. So there is kind of a need to make them more mainstream. And also there is a need to understand the labor market, also creating a platform for labor market intelligence, because like if we can trace COVID patients, we need to trace each and every informal sector workers, where they work, who are employing them. All this need to be very like readily available kind of form of data should we have, and also maintaining structure of the administration. Labor department is getting shrinked in certain states. And also EUDB, ease of doing business, is a very good kind of a concept, but that should, but ease of life is should also be the important. Last word, let us make this crisis into an opportunity of renewing the relation ties, make it truly holistic. I think the last 20 years, industrial relations is going downward. So this is an opportunity to again revive the industrial relations scenario and actually make it holistic. And we should go back to the basics. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Sarkar. Very, very thought-provoking indeed. Because of paucity of time, I'll just share one question that I have for Mr. Saji Narayanan, since I'd read an interview where he had said when he had first taken over as president of the BMS, he said he's all for reconciliation. Hearing that from a very tall trade union leader as he ascends into a position of power in the trade union hierarchy, saying that normally people, trade union leaders, are supposed to be rebellious. But when he said that, I was taken by surprise. As early as say sometime 3-4 months back, when some labor reforms were being unleashed in this pandemic time, he had made a statement that these are not labor reforms. It is wholesale burial of all labor laws. This he said in the reference to the changes that Gujarat and the UP and the MP government, where the government of the day is in power and his organization is affiliated to the government in power. And despite that, for him to say all this, I would just want to prod him and ask him, what does he think of labor reforms? Does he think when the government is talking so much about ease of doing business, creating a level playing field, and reforms in every other sector is moving ahead, and labor reforms are not moving ahead to the liking of the industry and the government? When he says such statements, what does he feel about the labor reforms agenda? In 2 minutes, if you could say something on this, because I was quite inquisitive in knowing this from you. So Saji Narayanan, please.
Thank you, Pandaji. You have raised a very, very pertinent question. Now, the main problem with the labor reforms is it lacks a vision. It doesn't convey a vision. It doesn't convey a philosophy. Jurisprudence built up for the last several decades, that is being lost in the labor reforms. Now, what is the purpose of the labor laws? There are 3 purposes already well settled. In 2015 also, all the 3 partners sat together and declared in 2015 ILC, Indian Labour Conference. The purpose is, first is sustainability of the enterprise, the industry. Second is welfare of the worker. Third is industrial peace. These are the 3 objectives of labor laws. And all the 3 things will be shattered because of the direction in which these labor laws are being pursued. Now, what BMS wants to blast is the conflict situation in the labor laws. Industrial Dispute Act was built up to address a master-servant relationship. Now that is changed because of BMS insistence. Even the labor law has been renamed as Industrial Relations Code. Now the new code is termed as Industrial Relations Code. That is because it's a family type of relationship that has to be established. It's not a question of dispute resolution. On our insistence, one separate chapter has been inducted. For that, I should congratulate CII. CII also consented to that thing. That is bipartisan. Bipartisan, what we said is there should be a congenial atmosphere at the floor level, a congenial culture by which the small issues are settled between the employer and employee at the lowest level. That was accepted. Only when the bipartite system fails, then only the third party, that is the government labor department, should step in. Now what happens? If there is a small problem, you have to directly run to the labor department, file a complaint. So that bipartisan has come up. Now there are several changes still needs to be made up. So all the details I don't want. But the problem with this, it doesn't lack a vision. So BMS has tried our level best and changed the vision. Now regarding code on wages, it has become historic and revolutionary because the last worker in the country is now covered by the minimum wages. As rightly pointed by the Labour Commissioner, the universality is required, but it is missing in the Social Security Code. So because of BMS efforts, we have a constant dialogue with the government. It has become a revolutionary document. The last worker will be now ensured with minimum wages. That is a big thing. So in that way, we have to, through dialogue, these things have to change up.
Thank you very much. I think we have exactly that much time. We have exceeded maybe by 5 minutes. Sorry, Mr. Subrata Banerjee, for that. I think we had a very thought-provoking session here. Lot of views. I won't call it divergent than what the employer would like to hear, but definitely this forum is exactly for that. We want to hear the perspective of the other side so that we take that on board and try to put that in our agenda so that we make things better for the future. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Mr. Saji Narayanan. Thank you very much, Dr. Reddy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to our moderator and our esteemed panelist for that thought-provoking session.